Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Mark Firehammer, co-creator of fness, offers hope and empowerment to those who want to maintain independence, stay out of the shadow of physical decline, and a plan to avoid the devastating costs of long-term care. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you, AJ. So good to be here with you.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Mark. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about aging, but we'll talk about aging without any physical decline. In that backdrop, we'll have our conversation. But before that, let's understand a bit more about you, your background, your journey, so that people know who they are listening to.
Sure. Well, I was born in 1962, and so you can do the math on my age. But ever since I was a little boy, I was always exploring and kind of pushing the limits of what people said that I could or couldn't do. And this conversation is about aging without decline, and I really like to flip the script a little bit and instead think of it from the point of view of maintaining independence. There's a saying here in the United States, AJ, I don't know if you've heard it in India, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I learned that very early on. As a child, I was into my bike because my bike was my magic carpet ride. I could get anywhere that my imagination could say, hey, maybe you want to go there. I liked to fish. I lived near the beach in Florida. And every day that I could, I got out there, got on my bike, and like the wind, I went and sought, my destiny for that day. And one of the things that I learned along the way, I didn't realize then was going to be important now as the creator of something like fness, is that the bike, I cannot take that bike for granted. I can break it down into pieces and make sure that the tires are good, the spokes are tight, the chain is lubricated and the tension is right. The handlebars successfully, go left and right, and the brakes, very, very important. If one wants to age without decline, not to crash your bike when you're 5 or 6 years old. So I learned early on that if I didn't take care of the bike, the journey that I wanted to go on that day, that week, that month, that year would be interrupted with the need to repair the bike. Another saying here in the United States is that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Do you have anything like that where you grew up, AJ?
Everywhere. I guess it's a global saying, prevention is always better than cure, whether ounce or pound or not, but prevention sure is very, very known worldwide.
Yes. So my bike was the childhood thing. As I got older, I was a musician. I was a professional musician, 20 years in that business. And the last 5 years of that part of my journey was in a van touring the eastern seaboard of the United States. And again, I was grateful for my childhood and the lesson about the bicycle because my van, I called her Tilly, affectionately known as Tilly. It was the same thing. I had such respect and a relationship with that vehicle because I knew that if I didn't see to her ability to start, to go forward, to go back, to stop, to turn left, to turn right, all the things that make that van capable of being my magic carpet ride for this journey that I was on as a musician. And in all the years, nearly 350,000 miles in the last 5 years, I never once broke down on the side of the road. And I look at that as a metaphor for our bodies, right? As a child, it was my bike. As an adult and a professional musician and a performer and a storyteller, it was the van. Realizing now that I'm in my 60s, the common denominator, the common thread going all the way back to the very beginning of my life, and we all have this in common, we're human beings, is the body. And I found that if I brought the same intention and attention to the areas of my body, I could have that journey that wasn't interrupted with discomforts and the need to go to the doctor and that sort of thing. And like I took the bike into pieces to understand how to maintain it, And I also did that with the van. We found with the fieldness system that in this culture, we're not given the information and the understanding about our bodies to be able to really make sense of what we're experiencing. We look outside of ourselves for answers. We look for doctors and experts and that sort of thing. So we took fieldness down to the very, very basics. 7 parts of the body: feet and ankles, lower legs, upper legs, hips, spine, arms and neck, or shoulders and neck, and then your arms, your elbows, and your hands. So like the bike, that's 7 manageable areas that if you understand just a little bit more than you did yesterday, you're in a better position to take care of it for tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Right, right, Mark. So your the reason for your success, that your bike is intact, your body is intact, everything is intact, and you are ready to go on to your next ride. Wherever you want to go, you can go, unlike others, several of maybe at your age and all. So age is just another thing. This bike ride is another thing. So help us understand what has been the reason for your success in these times. Better physical health without any much of a decline.
Yeah, I think the key for me has been surrounding myself with people who knew more than I did. And my co-creator and partner in life, Katrina Hawley, is one of the smartest people I've ever known about the body. And without her, I couldn't have gained the understanding about how to piece together a system that could be practically used to take care of myself now. The motivation for me was both of my parents. Because I'm come from a family. We don't go to the gym. We're not athletes, and there's billions of people like us around the world. We're not working out all the time, and that's certainly one solution. But if that is not enjoyable to you, you've got to have something else. So both of my parents, I watched them decline in their aging years. They both fell. They both broke their hip. They ended up needing lots and lots of help, and I knew that I didn't want to follow that same path. I wrote a song that has a line that says, "The future is certain when the past is so clear." And being the youngest of the family, I watched my parents go through this, and I'm watching my sisters kind of go in that direction as well. I knew I didn't want to end up there. I wanted to make different choices. And the episode the other day that I watched of yours, AJ, of Mikhail Michaels on
Yes.
he was talking about habits, about self-esteem, and very much in the same sort of mindset as I need to do something different than what they did, because if I do the same thing, I end up at the same place. So my success, truly, to answer your question, is focusing on cause and effect. What decisions can I make about my body that my parents didn't make, and that 300,000 people a year in the United States alone every year fall and break their hip over the age of 65, and catastrophic financial impacts. None of us plan to be in assisted living or to be in a wheelchair or to need a walker. But I think it's safe to say, at least here in America, that the vast majority of us don't plan not to be there. And that, for me, is the secret to my personal success. And we pass that along to others by giving them simple, practical choices that give them the knowledge and the ability they need to plan not to end up there as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mark. So let's talk about first mindset. And there seems to be a myth that physical decline is an inevitability,
Right.
especially when you are growing old or in old
Yeah.
age. What would you like to tell about this part? Does this all begin from this part, that if you believe it's going to be like that, then it will be like that, but if you don't believe it, then you will start making those changes. Help us understand this part.
Sure. I have to quote one of my favorite authors. This is a countryman of yours, Deepak Chopra. I believe I learned this from him. Deepak taught me that whatever you believe, and most of us have beliefs that we inherited, we didn't evaluate them and choose them, they were given to us. And whatever we believe, we will think. That's the software to our thoughts. What we think, we will eventually say. What we say we do and what we do shapes our reality. Change any of those 4 previous steps and your reality can change. And that for me is what mindset is really at the core. What do you believe? What are you thinking? What are you saying? What are you doing? Where are you ending up? And Deepak, I'm so grateful for the wisdom that I got from him and still continue to get from him, because that in the essence is mindset, is realizing that you're actually responsible for the outcome. And sometimes people say, "Oh, but you're blaming the victim." Being a victim and being responsible are two different sides, two different ways to look at things. Deepak also taught me that responsibility means that you have infinite choices, whereas victim, you only lament what happened to you. So that's kind of in a nutshell what mindsetting is for me. I don't like to overthink it, because at the end of the day, it really is that simple. If you do this and that happens, you have to take responsibility for what you did.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mark. We'll come to the fitness part. But first, you talk about non-exercises, exercisers.
Yeah.
And non-exercisers means they have been non-exercisers since quite long. So what do these non-exercisers need to do, and from what age? Do you think from age
Right.
5, 4, or from day one? Or is it that they can do it later on, maybe 40, 50, 60? Help us understand all this about
Right.
non-exercises, when it will be not too late for them to start.
Right. Well, this is the biggest question right here. And if you look at the CDCs of the world and the World Health Organization, they all agree on one thing, but it's very vague, that human beings, adults over the age of 18 to about 65 or 70, 300 minutes a week of diverse physical activity is the recommendation. But wow, that's just so broad. I mean, can I just walk for 300 minutes a week and that going to be enough? No. I mentioned the 7 areas of the body earlier. If the 300 minutes a week of activity that's non-strenuous, like you're not lifting weights, you're not running on the treadmill, if the 300 minutes a week are taking in every one of those 7 areas of the body and moving them near their edges, our wrists have a range of motion, so do our knees, ankles, and our spine. When we don't move as a middle-aged person, we begin to lose that mobility, that range of motion, which is why my parents fell down, because they no longer had the ability to flex their feet the way they were designed, to move their spine the way it was designed, because they simply had stopped moving. So these gentle movements, as we call them, look a lot like the exercises you see people doing at the gym, but they don't have intensity. There's no weights. There's no 10 reps and then another 10 reps and another 10 reps. It's just very gently going through the motions that all 7 areas of your body need, and you don't need to do every area every day. I do my feet and ankles in the morning on Monday, and then in the morning on Tuesday, I'll move up to my lower legs. And then in the morning on Wednesday, I'll move up to the upper legs. It takes 10 minutes to go through these moves that used to be exercises, but now they're just gentle. I like to remind us all that we are swimming in gravity, and we don't need to add weights, because the blessing of this planet that supports life, gravity is the weight, and our body mass feels heavy because of gravity. When you're doing these movements while swimming in gravity, as I like to say, you're actually, in a way, working out. The way this body, this amazing body we've been given, was designed to work out. And naturally, you maintain capacity because you're using it so you don't lose it.
Okay. So naturally, but there must be some time when they should start. That this is the time when at least you should get started, and then you will get the maximum benefit. Because why to start at 65 and expect spectacular outcomes then?
Yes, that's a great question. And the answer is you should be moving for your whole life. But let's face it, if you didn't, here's how you know when you need to start. There's 9 things that I do, and AJ, I'm sure you do them every day, and everybody does if they still can. I'm going to do them in order. Getting out of the bed, right? That first walk to the kitchen, to the bathroom, to the curb, to get the newspaper, wherever. It's the first walk. Reaching up to a high shelf, right? Bending over maybe to pet the cat. Sitting down at the dining table to have your breakfast or read the paper. Getting out of that chair again. Getting all the way down to the floor, tie the shoes, play with the grandkids. Getting all the way back up from the floor. And finally, turning to look over your shoulder. Like if you drive a car, you have to look over your shoulder to back out of the driveway. If any of those tasks at any time in your life, whether you're 5 or 105, make you make a noise like this. You ready? I'm going to see if you recognize it. Oof. Oof. Right? You bend over to tie your shoes. Oof. If a friend is near me and they do that, I go, oh, are you okay, Bob? And Bob says, oh, yeah, I'm just getting old. Right? That's the sign. Oof. All that is the body saying, hey, buddy, you need to move. And that's why you just felt that. Right? So that's the sign. In 2023, I was 60 years old. I had 4 of those 9 tasks. Oof. Right? 4 of them made me say oof. Within 60 days, all the oofs were gone because I followed these prescriptions of movement to gently convince my body that, hey, if you move in these ways, you're going to boot the oof, as I like to say. Is that helpful?
Very helpful indeed. Very helpful.
Right.
And let's then talk about feelness. What is this feelness? Why feelness? It's a very sort of a good sort of a name. Quite, you feel it.
Yes. Feelness, because that's where it all starts. Whether you realize it or not, you are a soul, a spirit, a consciousness that's riding in this vehicle. I'm getting back to my vehicle analogy again. And you feel everything. We've got 5 senses. And the feelness is about is the sensation, not the emotion. Emotions are the feelings we assign to sensations. So set the emotions aside. Feelness is called that because that is the essence of our guidance. If we feel something that doesn't quite feel right, that is just a message from your nervous system, assuming you have no traumatic injury. You haven't been hit by a car or crashed your bike or fell down the stairs. If this just came up out of the blue, it is that feeling, that feelness that is saying, hey, you need to do something, but we don't know what to do. Feelness gives us that information. You've probably noticed that it's all very practical. 7 areas of the body, 7 movements for each area. Those areas of movement are combined in prescriptions to solve 9 daily tasks. Everybody knows what it means to get out of bed. The Okinawans sleep on the floor. So getting out of bed involves more of their legs than some of us that live in countries where we sleep in beds that are high up. But the notion of getting out of bed is really kind of universal to humanity. So we try to keep feelness practical from an intellectual point of view, so it's usable and approachable, but it's all connected to how it feels. How did that feel today, AJ, to get up from the breakfast table? And tomorrow, when you do it again after doing some movements, oh, that's a little better. We always recommend people track their progress, because when you're not accustomed to tuning into how your body feels, it might be hard to see the gentle, slow results and improvements. So when you write it down, I'm on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being bad, 10 being good. I was a 2 on Monday. In 3 weeks, by Monday, 3 weeks later, I was a 9. And that's why you go, yay, I'm going to pat myself on the back because I just gave myself back a state of feelness that kept my ride being more about the journey and not trying to figure out how to fix things along the way.
Right. So what should be the biggest reason that one should give about healthcare costs or other benefits, or it's just about, feeling good? what would be the number one priority in terms of, if you say about feeling good at old age?
Yeah, the number one priority is, I'm just going to speak for me because I'm a human and we probably share this feeling, is if I am not consumed with worry and fear about my body because what I'm feeling, ouch, that hurts, right? If I'm not consumed by that, every day is going to be better. And if I can be a little better every day and not end up like my parents and the 300,000 other adults over 65 in this country, and not fall down and have the end of my life look like, just a doctor appointment, that's my priority. Avoid that. One little 10-minute session at a time. I do 20 minutes a day, but 10 minutes a day at a minimum, and you're meeting your minimum requirements and you're feeling a whole lot better.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see it, in my way, Mark, that if one takes care of themselves,
Yeah.
And keeping themselves fit, and see, everyone has to go one day. But when once time comes, then you should be in a position to not be carried up, but you can walk straight to God, shake hands with Him, and say, I am here now with you.
That is a dignified ending of life right there, AJ. That's exactly how I want to go. I want to walk right up to whatever I refer to as God, shake his or her hand, and bravo. Well said.
Wonderful. There's much to learn from you about all these things, Mark, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn more about fness, about learning more about you, your co-creator, and so what is the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, if you just point your browser at myfeelness.com, that will direct you to the website, and we have a wonderful blog that talks about different journeys, like the getting out of bed journey and the walking journey. So you really get to see through the eyes of someone who's already walked the path of getting back their feelness, and you'll find it very inspirational. Even if the person never subscribes, they're going to learn a great deal just from reading the blog. That's what I would do.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ.